And we're back with once again some more surprises from episode 3 and someone that I know that you guys weren't quite expecting to see, but you've been asking about her. So let's dive right into the recap and talk about episode 3 titled Tether. So the episode starts off with Boyd examining his arm in the mirror, and he looks very worried because he doesn't know what's about to happen to him now that his blood has been contaminated. In the next scene, we see him trying to explain to Ellis the events that occurred out in the woods with Sarah and his experience with using a faraway tree. But of course, the idea of a tree that teleports you to a different place sounds crazy to Ellis, which honestly, I would understand his disbelief if he wasn't already trapped in a damn town where monsters try to eat you every night. Like, come on. You would think the guy would be willing to believe almost anything given their predicament, but I'm actually going to get into this more in a video I plan to release later before the season ends. Ellis also asked about Sarah, and Boyd tells him that he doesn't know. Ellis proceeds to ask him how did he return, and Boyd tells him he just got lucky and found his way back. In this moment, Ellis believes that Boyd is just lying to avoid having to reveal the truth. And then he throws a fit and tells Boyd that he didn't keep his word about returning with answers and finding a way out. It soon becomes very clear that something else is bothering Ellis, and it's actually the fact that he saw a side of Fatima that he's never seen before the night the new people were getting sliced up. He feels like the Fatima he knows is slipping away, and Boyd tells him that he has to be the part of her that the town can't take away, and that's how they'll make it back home, by supporting each other. He also tells Ellis to step his ring game up since he got Fatima a piece of twisted wire as an engagement ring. He said it jokingly, of course, but where in the hell is Ellis supposed to get a better looking engagement ring while trapped in Slaughterville? I'm just saying. Then we jump over to the hospital with Christy and the Matthews family as she patches up Jim. Once Jim and Tabitha have some time alone, she tells him that the wires underneath the house aren't connected to anything, because remember, he doesn't know this yet. Back at the charter bus, Randall argues with Boyd and Donna because he wants to keep his gun with him, understandably, but Boyd tells him that that's against the rules for residents to carry guns. Randall says F the rules, and Boyd tells him to take his happy ass out in the woods and try living on his own rules once the monsters start TLC creeping, and this seems to be enough to get Randall to act right. For now. Then Donna has the remaining passengers escorted to Colony House. Inside the diner, Tabitha, Ethan, and Julie are grabbing a bite, and Ethan tells Tabitha that he would like to see Victor, basically to apologize for digging through his shit with Jade. It's obvious that Tabitha has some other things on her mind, and in this moment she goes to ask Kenny's mom about taking some supplies from storage since they lost everything. Mrs. Lou basically says yes and also invites the Matthews to come stay with her, Kenny, and Jade. Near the charter bus, Boyd and Donna discuss how the storm wiped out half the crops, and how feeding everyone now is going to be a challenge. She tells Boyd that 25 people arrived on the bus, and since then they have found 3 bodies, and of course I'm sure there's more. Then she proceeds to ask Boyd about what happened in the woods, and then he just gives her a funny look, like he ain't trying to talk about that shit. Out in the woods while Kenny is checking and resetting the animal traps, Ellis picks flowers for Fatima. Kenny looks over and sees this and is a little jealous since he no longer has a special someone to pick flowers for, and he basically tells Ellis to put those damn flowers down and come help him. At first Ellis is like, don't take that shit out on me, but he cuts Kenny a break and brushes it off because he understands what Kenny is going through with Christy. We all do. After Kenny asked for help to find the metal rod that's used to prop up the trap, in this moment they hear music playing in the distance. And turns out it's the girl from the idiot couple in the bar whose boyfriend opened the door for the monsters. It's her phone alarm that's going off, and there she is looking stupid with the metal rod Kenny was looking for shoved through her damn skull. This was definitely a joke by the monsters who wanted to use the animal traps to leave them a human. And I think this is specifically why she was pinned to the tree, because we already know they like to play around. Eventually, while preparing to take the body back to town, Kenny and Ellis discover that Kelly is still alive. And more than likely you guys have already seen the episode, so you know that her name has some significance that we will of course discuss later. This is also why the episode is called Tether, because she is tethered to the tree. There also might be other reasons why this episode is called Tether, but I think this is the obvious reason. Over at Colony House, Victor is finally back, and he discovers that his room has been rummaged and some things are missing. He's told by that one mysterious Colony House girl that she may have seen Jade and Ethan go in his room. Then he heads over to Kenny's house to see Jade, and before he knocks, he can hear Jade playing his violin. Victor seems a bit conflicted before he knocks, because Jade can actually play quite well. For a split second, Victor forgets that he is even upset because it's so good, but he soon snaps out of it and he snatches his shit back from Jade. Jade runs him down and questions him about the symbol and shows him the picture with the man known as Christopher holding the book. You guys don't know his name yet, but the man in the photo is named Christopher. Jade proceeds to ask Victor, "Don't you want to go home?" But Victor is still upset and, as always, just keeps important details to himself and storms off. But thank God we have Jade to put a fire underneath Victor's ass so we can hopefully finally get some answers this season. Back at the hospital, Christy and Marielle are still working through their stuff, and Kenny barges in to get Christy so she can come help with Kelly. Christy tells Marielle that she'll be back and that she loves her, and Kenny's like, "Oh God, there she goes with that I love you shit." And hey, you know what I say? I say have some patience, Kenny, because they always come back. Back in the woods, Kelly tells Ellis how the monsters came to the bar and dragged her and Brian outside, and then they made her watch them kill him. Then they told her that they wanted to play, and now she's pinned to a tree. And in this moment, Kenny returns with Christy to help. Back at the hospital, Jim meets Tilly and they get to know each other a little better. And he also finds out that Marielle is Christy's fiance. Also, before Tilly walks in, Jim sees the exit sign flicker. And I think he just becomes curious about the wiring after his conversation with Tabitha at the beginning of this episode. I think he just wants to see if the hospital also doesn't contain any wires. But as far as I can tell, besides that, there's not much else to talk about here. Back at Colony House, Fatima shows Elgin around and she tells him that she's his proxy, and he ends up asking her if there's a lake or pond nearby, revealing to her that he saw it in a dream. And she reveals to him that a lot of them have weird reactions to the town, like dreams, nightmares, and premonitions. And they don't know why it only happens to some of them. Fatima also mentions a girl named Nadia, and how she used to say that the town was calling out to them, but only some of them who were listening close enough could hear it. She tells Elgin that others have tried to find answers for these strange experiences, and basically they never end up learning anything new. Back in the woods, we see Christy, Ellis, and Kenny as they struggle to help Kelly, and Christy tells them that even if they were in a hospital, it would be at least a 15-hour operation. These damn monsters, man. Because of their sloppy work, poor Kelly has to sit here and suffer. And also, I don't know if you guys took note of this, but this is the first time we've ever seen the monsters attempt to kill someone in this way before, and they definitely meant to kill her. I personally would not draw the conclusion that they shoved a metal rod through her skull to keep her alive so she would suffer on purpose. And I said that because I feel like some people are definitely going to try to make this argument, but can we at least agree that if someone shoves a metal rod through your head, they are more than likely trying to kill you? She definitely wasn't purposely left alive. She was knocked out when Kenny and Ellis found her, and I think that's exactly the way she was left after she was impaled with the rod, and the monsters may have just thought that she was dead. I mean, we already know that they wanted to play with her, so I assume that that's why this situation is different. Props to Christy though for keeping it real with Kelly, because Kelly asked her if she was going to die, and Christy was like, yeah, you gonna die. Over at the barn, Tabitha and Julie search for new clothes since they no longer have any. And as they leave, Tabitha sees the dirty children standing in the road. Then we cut to Boyd visiting Abby's grave, where he struggles with the logic of the events that took place with Martin, and how he witnessed the impossible by traveling through a tree and meeting a man who knew his wife's name. And he says that maybe her and Ellis are just sitting beside a hospital bed somewhere, just waiting for him to open his eyes. This is one of the craziest things that we've seen Boyd experience since he's been in the town. This might be the craziest thing, because he went inside of the tree and physically traveled somewhere and spoke to a stranger who knew something personal about him. What sucks about the logic of the characters in this show is that if Boyd told some of them exactly what happened to him in the woods, they would think he's crazy, which really doesn't make much sense because they're all trapped in a town where monsters that disguise themselves as humans come out every night and eat people. That's already impossible. So beyond that point, believing the impossible shouldn't really be that difficult, right? But that's the show, and that's the logic of the characters, and to a certain extent, that's kind of human nature as well. I'll kind of give them that much. Some people don't like to have their current understanding of certain things or their current logic to be shattered by things they never knew were possible. I mean, they say art imitates life, right? So just look at real life. There's people out there who don't want to believe that the earth is round or that outer space is real. So I guess we could just chalk it up to the show imitating life when it comes to situations like these, but it's still quite frustrating sometimes. Anyway, there's my rant for today. Back to the recap. So back in town at Kenny's place, Tabitha tells Julie about the dirty children in white, She tells Julie how this isn't the first time she's seen something that wasn't there. And then she proceeds to tell her how she used to see and hear Thomas months after he died, but how seeing him was peaceful, and seeing the kids in the road didn't feel peaceful. So no, Tabitha isn't getting good vibes from the children she's been seeing. Back in the woods with Kelly, she mentions how she would like to call and say goodbye to her mom. Christy tells her that phones don't really work there, but she could leave a written note. Suddenly, Kelly starts to hear something that the others don't, and then she starts screaming in pain. Boyd shows up after hearing her screams and snatches the damn rod out of her head immediately. And sadly, Kelly doesn't survive. For a second there, she was going to tell us what she heard, but in good old From fashion, we don't find out a damn thing. Oh, you guys thought we were going to find out something, huh? You thought we were going to get some answers? Well, guess what? You thought wrong. You don't get no damn answers over here. We out of answers. We ain't got no damn answers over here. That's what the creators of From are telling us right now. Back at the hospital, Christy runs to Marielle in tears and asked her to please stay. Baby, won't you stay? Tyrese. And this, of course, is because of the traumatic events that just happened with Kelly. It makes you cherish what you have. You gotta hold on to what you got. And then we have a brief moment with Kenny and Ellis as they are just trying to come to terms with what they just experienced. Over at the diner, Ellis catches up with Fatima and he's like, to hell with waiting to get back home to get married. Let's not let this place decide when we get to be happy. And they decide that they're going to get married in the town instead. Back at Kenny's place, Tabitha sees that Ethan has some new toys that came from storage. And it's the same type of toy, if not the same exact toy, that the bald-headed dirty children had in the monster tunnels. In this moment, she sees a flashback and sees the creepy kids across the yard and rushes Ethan inside. And the next scene shows Boyd telling Donna about the events that happened in the woods with Kelly. But things become a lot more interesting because Boyd proceeds to tell Donna about an experience from his first tour in Iraq, where he was riding back to their command center with some fellow soldiers in a Jeep, and they basically drove over a landmine and the first two guys died on impact. And the last guy was cut in half and died in Boyd's arms. And then he reveals to Donna that the soldier's name was Corporal Brian Kelly, and how it's a strange coincidence how the couple who arrived on the bus was Brian and Kelly. Then Donna asked Boyd again about what happened to him in the woods. And once again, he avoids her question, but she tells him this time that he doesn't have to talk about it. She just wants to know that he's back so she has help with the leadership roles in the town, because since Boyd left, everything has basically been on Donna. And basically the last 8 to 9 minutes of this episode is spent showing how everyone involved with the Kelly situation is coping. And then the final scene cuts to Kenny at the church searching through Father Cautry's belongings for a scripture to read at service. And then Kenny goes to look in the basement of the church and look at who it is. Crazy Sarah. Alright, so you guys can finally stop asking now, where is Sarah? There she is, in the flesh. So I think it's safe to say that Sarah went through the tree and ended up in the basement of the church. That's where it teleported her. After the conversation that Elgin had with Fatima, do you guys think that things are going to be different now? Do you think that Elgin is actually going to be able to make some progress with what he knows? Or is he just going to become another person in the town who sees/knows things and won't be able to actually change anything? And we already know from the trailers that Jade and Victor are going to end up working together to go somewhere. We just don't know when or where exactly. And what do you guys think is going to happen to Tabitha with her visions of the dirty bald-headed children? Especially since we know now that she doesn't get good vibes from them. And I wanted to save the best for last. So the couple was named Brian and Kelly. And we find out that Boyd served with a soldier that was named Brian Kelly. How many other connections do you guys think are like this in the town, where the names of things or people are pointing to the past of some of the characters there? Because I'm thinking there's a lot more connections like this that we just haven't noticed or haven't been introduced to yet. But as always, I'll see you guys down in the comments with all your thoughts and theories so we can chop it up. Also, feel free to point out anything I missed, because unlike Ash Ketchum, I can't catch them all. Plus, did he ever catch them all? I don't really know. But anyway, until next time, thank you guys for watching.